The bright Arizona sun beat down on the massive dish antennas of the Deep Space Communication Array. Dr. Allison Wright wiped sweat from her brow as she stared at her computer screen. For 3 days straight, she had barely moved from her chair. The signal had first appeared 72 hours ago, and she hadn't slept more than a few minutes since. "You need to rest," said her assistant, Ben Howard, placing a fresh cup of coffee beside her keyboard. "Not yet," Allison said. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but they still shone with excitement. "This isn't random noise, Ben. These patterns repeat too perfectly." The signal had first registered as a small anomaly, a tiny blip that most systems would have ignored, but the new quantum receivers Allison had designed were sensitive enough to detect it. The signal was coming from somewhere near Alpha Centauri, Earth's closest stellar neighbor at just over 4 light-years away. "Dr. Wright?" A deep voice came from the doorway. Allison turned to see a tall man in a crisp military uniform. "I'm Lieutenant Commander Jack Miller, United States Space Force." "Space Force in my lab?" Allison raised an eyebrow. "What brings you to the boring world of deep space communications?" "Your discovery isn't as secret as you might think, Doctor," Miller said. He walked closer, his posture stiff, but his eyes curious. "The Pentagon has been monitoring your project since you picked up the signal." Allison frowned. "This is a scientific discovery, not a military matter. Any contact with a potential non-Earth intelligence is considered a matter of national security," Miller said. His voice softened slightly. "I'm not here to take over, just to observe and report back." Before Allison could argue further, her computer beeped loudly. New data flooded the screen. "It's changing," she gasped, fingers flying over the keyboard. "The signal is getting stronger and more complex." Miller leaned over her shoulder. "What does it mean?" "It means we're being noticed," Allison whispered. "Our response signals must have reached them." For weeks, the team had been sending simple mathematical sequences in response to the strange patterns. Now, the return signal was transforming into something far more structured. 3 hours later, the first images began to form. Allison and her team had written special programs to convert the signal into visual data. On the main screen of the lab, a face appeared. At least it seemed like a face. It had eyes, 3 of them, and a mouth-like opening. Its skin was pale blue with a metallic sheen. "My God," breathed Ben. The alien face began to move and sounds came through the speakers. It took another day for the computers to start making sense of the language. The translation program struggled, but words began to form on the screen below. The alien's face. "People of Earth, you have been noticed. I am High Commander Ziktal of the Galactic Hegemony. Your world now falls within our domain." Miller immediately got on his phone, speaking in hushed tones about security clearances and protocols. Within hours, the lab was filled with government officials, military personnel, and language experts. President Susan Carter arrived the next day, her usual calm demeanor showing signs of strain. She stood before the communication array as Ziktal's message repeated. "Can we respond?" she asked Allison. "Yes, Madam President. The system is ready." President Carter straightened her jacket and faced the camera. "This is President Susan Carter of the United States of America, speaking on behalf of Earth. We greet the Galactic Hegemony and welcome peaceful contact between our worlds." The response came faster than expected. Ziktal's 3 eyes blinked. In sequence. "Peace is available through submission. The hegemony requires your world's resources. Your species may continue to exist by serving our needs. Resist, and you will be reduced to minimal numbers required for labor. You have 1 planetary rotation to begin your surrender process." The room fell silent. President Carter's face hardened. "High Commander, we wish to discuss terms that would benefit both our peoples. Earth has much to offer through cooperation rather than submission." Ziktal's expression didn't change. "Negotiation is not our way. You will submit or you will suffer. There are no other options." The screen went black. Miller's radio crackled to life immediately. "Sir, we're detecting multiple objects entering the solar system. They've just passed Neptune's orbit. How many? Miller asked, his voice steady despite the tension in his shoulders. At least 20 large objects, sir. Moving at... This can't be right. They're moving at nearly half the speed of light. Allison's mind raced. Nothing could travel that fast through normal space. It violated everything she knew about physics. How long until they reach Earth? President Carter asked. A young officer, with a laptop, calculated quickly. At their current speed, less than 2 hours, Madam President. President Carter turned to her advisors. General Banks, initiate Defense Protocol Omega. Everyone else, follow evacuation procedures. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of activity. Military bases worldwide went on high alert. Missile defense systems were activated. In major cities, people were directed to shelters, though most had no idea why. Allison found herself in a secure bunker beneath the facility with Miller, Ben, and several military personnel. On screens around them, they watched as the objects slowed down near Mars. They're taking position around Earth, one officer reported, spreading out to cover all major continents. The alien ships were unlike anything humans had imagined. They weren't the flying saucers of old movies or the sleek starships of science fiction. They were angular, asymmetrical constructions that seemed to bend light around them, making them difficult to focus on directly. President Carter, now in the National Military Command Center beneath the Pentagon, opened the communication channel again. High Commander Zeichtal, I urge you to reconsider. We can find a peaceful solution. The alien commander appeared on screen once more. Your time for decisions has ended. Observe now the power of the hegemony. From the ships, beams of intense light shot downward. On the monitors, Allison watched in horror as military bases around the world erupted in flames. Missile silos, naval ports, Air Force bases, all precisely targeted and destroyed in seconds. Strangely, the beams avoided civilian populations. It was a surgical strike against Earth's defenses, not a wholesale slaughter. When it ended, every major military installation on the planet was destroyed. Thousands were dead, but millions who might have died were spared. Zeichtal's face returned to the screen. This demonstration is complete. Your defenses are removed. Your weapons are ineffective. You have 30 Earth days to prepare your world for integration into the hegemony. All resources will be cataloged. All humans will be registered for appropriate labor assignments. The screen went dark once more. In the bunker, Allison's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the console. What happens now? She whispered. Miller's face was grim. Now we find out if humanity has what it takes to survive. President Carter's voice came through on the emergency broadcast system, reaching the few communication networks still functioning. My fellow citizens of Earth, today we face the greatest challenge in human history. An alien force has attacked our world and demanded our surrender. But as long as we draw breath, hope remains. This is not the end of our story. Above Earth, the hegemony ships settled into orbit, dark sentinels watching and waiting for humanity's final answer. 2 weeks passed since the hegemony ships first appeared in Earth's skies. People walked the streets looking up at the dark shapes hovering above major cities. Schools were closed. Many stores had empty shelves. The world waited, counting down the days until the 30-day deadline. Dr. Allison Wright hadn't slept much during those 2 weeks. She spent most of her time in the underground lab beneath the ruins of the communication array. The main buildings above had been destroyed in the attack, but the underground sections remained intact. She stared at her screen, watching the patterns of hegemony communications. The aliens talked to each other constantly, their signals bouncing between ships and back to whatever distant star they called home. There's something here, she muttered. Something we're missing. Commander Jack Miller entered the room, carrying 2 cups of coffee. His uniform was wrinkled now and dark circles showed under his eyes. Any progress? He asked, placing a cup beside her. Maybe. Allison pointed to her screen. Their signals use patterns that repeat every few minutes, but there's a gap, a tiny pause that shouldn't be there. What does it mean? I'm not sure, she admitted. But I need help figuring it out, and I know just the person. Who? Nathan Garcia. Best programmer I've ever known. Miller frowned. Why isn't he already working with us? He left NASA 3 years ago. His wife and daughter died in a car crash. He just disappeared after that. Can you find him? I think so, Allison said. Last I heard, he was living in a cabin somewhere in Oregon. Miller made some calls. The next day, they flew to Oregon on one of the few military helicopters that survived the attack. The forest was thick and green below them as they searched. For the cabin, they found Nathan living alone in a small wooden house by a lake. His beard was long and unkempt. When he opened the door and saw Allison, he almost shut it again. The world is ending, Nathan, she said quickly. We need you. He let them in, but didn't seem happy about it. His cabin was simple but filled with computer equipment. Solar panels on the roof provided power. I don't work for the government anymore, he said. This isn't about government, Miller replied. It's about human survival. Allison showed Nathan the signal patterns on her laptop. His eyes, dull at first, began to show interest. This gap, he said, pointing to the screen. It's not random. It's a weakness in their system. It took hours of explanation and pleading, but Nathan finally agreed to return with them. The helicopter took them to a new location, a military bunker built into the Rocky Mountains. The facility was massive, carved deep into the mountain. As they walked through steel doors and down long hallways, Miller explained, This is Site 88. Almost no one knew it existed until the attack. A woman in a dark suit met them at an elevator. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly, and her eyes were sharp and alert. Dr. Wright, Mr. Garcia, welcome to Artemis. I'm Director Ellen Foster. The elevator took them down, deep into the earth. When the doors opened, they saw a vast room filled with advanced computers and strange equipment. What is this place? Allison asked in wonder. Project Artemis, Director Foster said. A classified AI defense system we've been developing for 25 years. 25 years? Nathan looked confused. That's before we had this level of AI technology. Director Foster's expression remained neutral. We had help. In 1997, something crashed in the desert. It wasn't from Earth. Miller looked shocked. You're saying, yes, Commander. We recovered alien technology and have been studying it in secret. We knew contact would come eventually. We just hoped to be better prepared. They walked to the center of the room where a glowing blue sphere pulsed gently inside a glass container. This is Alice, Director Foster said. The most advanced AI ever created, built using principles we learned from the crash. A soft, female voice came from speakers around the room. Hello, Dr. Wright. Hello, Mr. Garcia. I've been analyzing the hegemony's communications since they arrived. Allison approached the sphere. You know about the gap in their signals? Yes, Alice replied. It's not just a gap, it's a flaw in their neural network. The hegemony ships are connected through a form of hive mind, but the connection has vulnerabilities. Nathan moved to a nearby console, his fingers flying over the keyboard. Show me the data. For the next 3 days, Allison, Nathan, and the Artemis team worked without stopping. They analyzed the hegemony's communication patterns and found something remarkable. Their entire empire depends on this network, Nathan explained to Miller and Director Foster. Their ships, their weapons, even their soldiers, all connected to the same system. And we can attack this system? Miller asked. Better, Allison said. We can create a signal that will disrupt their entire command structure, a digital virus that targets the flaw in their network. How do we deliver this virus? Director Foster asked. Alice's blue sphere pulsed brighter. It must be uploaded directly to a hegemony ship. Their external communications are too well protected. For remote injection. You mean someone has to get onto one of their ships? Miller looked out the small window at the end of the room, where a hegemony vessel could be seen hovering in the distance. Yes, Alice said. A small team could board. A scout ship using stealth technology I've designed based on my analysis of their sensor systems. Director Foster shook her head. It's too dangerous. We need another option. Just then an aide rushed into the room. Director, President Carter is on the secure line. They gathered around a screen where the president's tired face appeared. She was in a mobile command center, constantly moving to avoid detection. Director Foster, what progress do we have? We're down to 13 days before their deadline. Director Foster explained their plan and the risks involved. President Carter listened quietly, then asked, "If we do nothing, what are our chances?" "Zero," Alice answered. "The hegemony has conquered 17 other worlds. They strip planets of resources and use the native populations as slave labor. Most species don't survive the process." President Carter's face hardened with resolve. "Then we have no choice. I authorize the mission. Get your team ready, Commander Miller." Miller stood straighter. "Yes, Madam President." After the call ended, Director Foster led them to another section of the facility. A hangar contained a small shuttle modified with strange technology. "This craft has experimental stealth systems," she explained. "It won't keep you invisible for long, but it might get you close enough." Miller began making calls to assemble a team of surviving Special Forces soldiers. Allison turned to Nathan, who was staring at the shuttle. "Are you okay?" "No," he admitted. "I came here to help with the programming, not to go on a suicide mission." "We need you," she said. "I can't interface with their systems alone." He closed his eyes for a moment. Then he looked at a photo he always carried, his wife and daughter smiling on a sunny day. "Fine," he said finally. "But if we're going to die anyway, let's make sure we take some of them with us." That night, as the team prepared for the mission, Allison went to speak with Alice alone. "There's something you're not telling us about this plan, isn't there?" she asked the AI. The blue sphere pulsed slowly. "The hegemony is more vulnerable than they know. Humanity has something none of the other conquered species possessed." "What's that?" "Independence," Alice replied. "The hegemony relies on neural connection. Their minds are linked, but humans think as individuals. That is your strength. That is what they fear." Allison looked up at the distant ceiling. Somewhere, above, beyond layers of rock and steel, the enemy waited, and beyond them the stars. "Then let's show them what humans can do," she said. Commander Jack Miller stood in the hangar looking at the 4 people who would join him on the mission. They were the best of what remained of Earth's special forces. Sergeant Paul Davis was a demolitions expert. His hands were steady as he checked explosive devices that might be needed to breach the alien ship. Lisa Johnson was the tech specialist, already working with Nathan to prepare the digital virus. Daniel Martinez was their medic, packing supplies they might need if anyone got hurt. "Not much of an army," Miller said quietly to Allison. "It's not about numbers," she replied. "It's about getting in, uploading the virus, and getting out." The modified shuttle looked small against the vast hangar wall. Its skin had been covered with a dark material that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. "The stealth technology will hide us from their sensors," Allison explained. "But only for about 20 minutes once we're in range." "That's not much time," Miller said. "It's all we've got." Director Foster entered the hangar with President Carter, who had arrived in secret to see them off. "The fate of our world rests with you," the president said. She looked tired but determined. "This may be our only chance." "We won't let you down, Madam President," Miller promised. Allison carried a small device to the shuttle. Inside was a copy of Alice compressed into a portable system. "Alice will guide you," Director Foster said. "She knows more about the hegemony than anyone." They boarded the shuttle as final checks were completed. The plan was simple, but dangerous. They would launch during a scheduled hegemony patrol over what remained of San Francisco. The alien ships followed strict patterns which Alice had analyzed carefully. As the shuttle doors closed, Allison felt her heart racing. She had never imagined herself as a soldier or a spy. She was a scientist who preferred looking at stars through telescopes, not flying to alien ships. Nathan sat beside her, looking even more nervous. "I should have stayed in my cabin," he muttered. The shuttle engines hummed quietly as they powered up. The hangar doors above them opened slowly, revealing the night sky. "Launch in 30 seconds," Miller announced from the pilot's seat. Allison closed her eyes as the countdown finished. The shuttle rose smoothly, accelerating into the dark. They flew low over mountains and valleys, staying close to the ground. To avoid detection, Alice's voice guided Miller, helping him navigate the safest path. Hegemony patrol approaching San Francisco Bay, Alice announced. Arrival in 12 minutes. Miller pushed the shuttle faster. They needed to be in position. Before the alien ship arrived, the ruins of San Francisco came into view. Once a beautiful city of towers and bridges, now many buildings were broken from the attack. The Golden Gate Bridge still stood, though damaged in sections. Hiding position located, Alice said, behind the remains of the Transamerica Pyramid. Miller guided the shuttle behind the half-destroyed building and powered down the engines. They waited in darkness. Minutes later, a shadow passed overhead. The Hegemony scout ship was massive compared to their shuttle, at least the size of a naval destroyer. It moved silently, its hull shimmering with an oily rainbow pattern. Activating stealth systems, Miller said, flipping switches. The shuttle's skin came alive, the strange material shifting and changing. Allison felt a faint vibration as the technology worked. Launch in 3, 2, 1. Miller counted down and pushed the throttle forward. The shuttle rose from its hiding place, accelerating toward the much larger alien craft. On their screens, they could see the Hegemony ship continuing its patrol, unaware of their approach. We have 18 minutes of stealth remaining, Alice warned. The docking port is located on the underside of the ship. Miller guided the shuttle, beneath the massive alien vessel. Up close, the Hegemony ship's hull was covered in strange patterns that seemed to move slightly, like ripples on water. There, Lisa pointed to a section that looked different from the rest. That has to be the docking area. Miller moved the shuttle carefully into position. With a soft bump and hiss, they made contact. Lights on their control panel turned green. Seal is good, Martinez confirmed. We can board. Remember, we may encounter Hegemony troops, Miller warned. Use the stun weapons only. We don't want to alert them to our presence. They moved through the shuttle's airlock and into a connecting tube that now joined their ship to the alien vessel. The air smelled strange, with a metallic tang that made Allison's nose wrinkle. The inner door of the alien ship was not locked. It slid open at a touch from Davis. They don't expect visitors, he whispered. The corridors inside were larger than human ships would build, with high ceilings and strange angles. The walls pulsed with faint blue light that followed their movements. The ship knows we're here, Nathan said nervously. Not exactly, Alice replied through their earpieces. The ship senses movement but hasn't identified you as intruders yet. You have approximately 10 minutes before security systems fully register your presence. They moved quickly through the corridors, following Alice's directions. The ship seemed strangely empty. Where is everyone? Martinez asked. Hegemony scout ships are mostly automated, Alice explained. There would be only 5 or 6 crew members, likely in the command center. They reached a junction where several corridors met. From one of them came sounds, a rhythmic thumping and what might have been voices, though not like any human language. We need to go that way, Alice said, indicating the corridor with the sounds. Of course we do, Nathan muttered. Miller signaled Davis to take the lead. They moved silently down the corridor, which ended at a large door. The sounds were louder. Here. Davis examined the door. No obvious opening mechanism, he whispered. Allow me, Alice said. The device Allison carried emitted a short pulse of sound. The door slid open. Inside was a large room filled with equipment. Screens covered the walls, showing images of Earth from various angles. In the center was a pillar of swirling light that reached from floor to ceiling. The central communication node, Alice said. You need to connect me there. But they weren't alone. 3 figures stood by the pillar. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with blue skin that had a metallic sheen, just like the face they had seen in the first transmission. 3 eyes blinked in sequence as the aliens turned to look at the humans. Intruders, one of them said, in perfect English. How interesting. Miller raised his weapon. But before he could fire, one of the aliens made a gesture. An invisible force knocked the humans backward. "Your primitive technology cannot harm us," the alien said. Davis recovered, first, rolling to one side and throwing a small device toward the aliens. It burst with a blinding flash and a high-pitched tone that made Allison cover her ears. The aliens staggered, their three eyes blinking rapidly in confusion. "Now!" Miller shouted, rushing forward. Martinez and Davis tackled two of the aliens. The third swung a long arm at Miller, who ducked and struck back with his stun weapon. The alien jerked and fell. "Lisa! Nathan, the node!" Allison called. They rushed to the pillar of light. Lisa connected Alice's device while Nathan worked on a control panel nearby. "Beginning upload," Alice announced. Estimated time 3 minutes. One of the aliens broke free from Martinez's grip. "You cannot stop the hegemony," it snarled. "We are eternal." From a side door, a different figure emerged, smaller, with green-gray skin and large, sad eyes. It moved quickly, striking the free alien with what looked like a metal staff. The blue-skinned figure collapsed. "Hurry," the green being said in broken English. "More coming." Miller aimed his weapon at the newcomer. "Who are you?" "I am Trell, prisoner, like your world soon." The green alien pointed to marks on its neck that looked like burn scars. "Slave control. I removed. Pain great. Freedom greater." "Upload at 40%, Alice reported. Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. "We've been detected," Miller said. "How much longer?" 2 minutes, 12 seconds, Alice replied. Trell moved to a control panel. "I help. Slow security." Nathan looked up from his work. "Can we trust it?" "No choice," Miller decided. Trell's long fingers moved over the alien controls. Some of the alarms stopped. "Earth, not first," Trell said to Allison. "Many worlds taken. Given one chance, always same." "What happens after the deadline?" she asked. Trell made a gesture across its throat. "Resources taken, people who live become like me." A loud bang came from the corridor. The main door dented inward. "They're breaking in," Davis warned, readying. His weapon. "Upload at 70%, Alice reported. "We need more time." Miller made a quick decision. "Martinez, Davis, we'll hold them off. The rest of you complete the mission." Martinez nodded grimly. "It's been an honor, sir." The 3 soldiers took positions facing the door as it began to buckle inward. The door burst open with a shower of sparks. Miller, Davis, and Martinez fired their stun weapons as shadowy figures rushed through. The blue-skinned aliens fell, but more kept coming. "Upload at 85%, Alice announced. 90 seconds remaining. Nathan worked frantically at the control panel while Lisa kept the connection stable. Allison stood guard with Trell, who had found a weapon from one of the fallen aliens. "We can't hold them much longer," Davis shouted as he ducked behind a console. A blast of energy scorched the wall where his head had been a moment before. "Go back to the shuttle," Miller ordered Allison. "Take the others and be ready to launch." "We're not leaving without you," she protested. "That's an order, Doctor," Miller said firmly. "Someone needs to complete the mission." Martinez moved to Miller's side, firing steadily at the aliens in the doorway. "He's right. Get to the shuttle. We'll be right behind you." Allison knew they were lying, but nodded anyway. "Come on," she said to Nathan and Lisa. "Trell, show us another way out." Trell led them to a small door at the back of the room. It opened onto a narrow service corridor. "Upload at 95%, Alice said. 60 seconds. "We need to wait," Lisa insisted. "No time," Trell replied, pulling them forward. "More guards coming." They heard explosions from the room they had just left. Davis must have used some of his demolition charges. "Martinez is down." Miller's voice came through their earpieces. "Davis, cover the east side." More sounds of fighting, then a cry of pain that had to be Davis. "Upload complete," Alice announced suddenly. "Virus deployed to local systems." "Miller, we got it," Allison called into her communicator. "We're coming back for you." Static was the only reply. They reached a junction in the corridor. Trell hesitated, then pointed left. "Shuttle this way, hurry." As they ran, the lights in the corridor began to flicker. The walls, which had been humming with energy, fell silent in patches. "It's working," Nathan said. "The virus is spreading through their systems." They reached the docking area where their shuttle waited. The door was still open, but 2 alien guards stood nearby. "Now what?" Lisa whispered. Before anyone could answer, the guards suddenly stiffened. Their eyes blinked rapidly, and they clutched at their heads. "Neural disruption," Alice explained. "The virus is affecting their connection to the hegemony network." Taking advantage of the distraction, they rushed past the confused guards and into the shuttle. Nathan jumped into the pilot's seat. "I can't fly this thing," he said nervously. "I'll guide you," Alice replied. "Starting emergency launch sequence." Allison looked back at the open airlock. "Wait, Miller and the others might still make it." Just then, a figure appeared in the doorway, but it wasn't Miller or Davis. It was an alien soldier, weapon raised. Trell moved faster than seemed possible. The green-skinned alien tackled the soldier, and they both fell out of sight. "We cannot wait," Alice insisted. "The ship's automated defenses will activate in 20 seconds. Nathan reluctantly activated the launch sequence. The shuttle's door began to close. "Wait," a voice called from outside. Martinez stumbled through the airlock just before it sealed, blood staining his uniform. He collapsed on the floor. "Where are the others?" Allison asked, helping him to a seat. Martinez shook his head. "They didn't make it. Miller told me to run, while he and Davis held them off." Allison felt her heart sink as the shuttle detached from the hegemony ship. Through the viewport, she could see the alien vessel's lights flickering erratically. "Multiple system failures detected in the hegemony ship," Alice reported. "Their weapons are offline, propulsion systems failing." As their shuttle moved away, other hegemony ships in orbit began showing similar signs of distress. Some drifted out of position. Others seemed to be fighting to maintain control. "Is the virus spreading to all their ships?" Lisa asked. "Yes, but not as effectively as I had hoped," Alice replied. "The main virus upload was incomplete. We only managed to deploy a partial version." "What does that mean?" Nathan asked as he guided the shuttle back toward Earth. "It means we've disrupted their operations but not destroyed their network," Alice explained. "The effect will be temporary unless we can deliver the complete virus to their central command." Martinez groaned as Allison tended to his wounds. "A partial victory is better than none," he said through gritted teeth. They re-entered Earth's atmosphere, the shuttle shaking violently as Alice guided Nathan through the descent. Below, they could see the lights of the bunker facility appearing as hidden doors in the mountainside opened to receive them. Director Foster and President Carter were waiting when they landed. Their faces showed both relief and concern as they saw only 3 of the 6 members returning. "Miller and Davis?" Director Foster asked quietly. "They stayed behind," Allison replied, her voice breaking slightly. "And Trell saved us but didn't make it out." "Trell? Who's Trell?" President Carter asked. "An alien prisoner. He helped us. Said Earth wasn't the first world the hegemony has threatened." Inside the facility, they watched the screens as hegemony ships drifted in confused patterns above Earth. Some had managed to restore partial systems, but their coordinated formations were broken. "How long will this disruption last?" President Carter asked. "Hours, perhaps a day," Alice replied. "The virus damaged their communications but did not permanently disable them." Nathan collapsed into a chair, exhaustion finally catching up with him. "So we bought some time, but that's all?" "Time is precious," Director Foster said. "And what you've brought back is even more valuable." She pointed to the data streaming across the screens. The virus had done more than just disrupt the aliens. It had opened a window into their systems. Information about the hegemony was pouring into Artemis's computers. "Alice, what are we seeing?" Allison asked. "Star maps, fleet deployments, communication protocols." Alice's blue sphere pulsed with excitement, and the location of their central command structure, a space station they called the Nexus, It orbits a star approximately 70 light-years from Earth. 70 light-years? Nathan looked up in disbelief. That might as well be 1,000,000. We can't reach that. We can, Alice said, using their own technology. Martinez, his wounds bandaged but still in pain, pointed to something on one of the screens. What's that? The screen showed thousands of small dots scattered across the star map. Each one pulsed with the same rhythm. Those are all the worlds under hegemony control, Alice explained, many of them inhabited by species who, like Trell, were conquered and enslaved. How many? President Carter asked. 217 inhabited worlds, Alice replied. Billions of sentient beings, all connected through the same network. We just disrupted. A silence fell over the room as they realized the implications. This wasn't just about saving Earth anymore. President Carter straightened her back. Decision made. Director Foster, I want every surviving world leader brought here within 12 hours. It's time for humanity to stand together. She looked at the tired team members. What you've done today proves the hegemony isn't invincible. Now we need to take the fight to them before they recover. Allison stared at the star map, thinking of Miller and Davis, who had given their lives for this chance, and of Trell, an alien who had helped them despite years of suffering under hegemony rule. How do we reach the Nexus? She asked. Alice's voice was calm but determined. We take one of their ships. The captured hegemony ship hung in Earth's orbit, its dark hull gleaming in the sunlight. Humans had named it Hope, a word painted in large white letters on its side. Inside, 12 people prepared for what might be humanity's final mission. 3 weeks had passed since the first attack. The partial virus had disrupted the hegemony fleet long enough for humans to capture a damaged scout ship. Engineers and scientists worked day and night to understand its systems, helped by Alice and the data they had stolen. Dr. Allison Wright stood on the bridge, looking down at Earth through a viewscreen. The blue planet seemed small and fragile, from up here. So much to protect. So much to lose. Ready for final checks, said Lisa Johnson, who now served as the ship's engineer. She had hardly slept in days, learning how to operate the alien technology. Nathan Garcia sat at what they had. Determined was the navigation station. His fingers moved across strange controls that responded to touch and thought. He had connected with the ship's systems in ways no one fully understood. Course is set, he said. Alice believes we can reach the Nexus in 5 days using their faster-than-light drive. Commander Martinez, still recovering from his wounds, studied tactical displays. 8 other crew members, pilots, soldiers, and scientists chosen from around the world, worked at various stations. We should go, Allison said, before they realize what we're doing. President Carter's voice came through the communication system. Hope Team, you are cleared for departure. The prayers of every person on Earth go with you. Allison took a deep breath. Engaging main drive. The stars blurred as the ship accelerated to impossible speeds. Earth vanished behind them as they headed toward the heart of the hegemony. Inside a shielded container at the center of the bridge, Alice's blue sphere pulsed steadily. The AI had been improved, enhanced with knowledge from the hegemony's own systems. The complete virus is ready, Alice announced. Once we reach the Nexus, we will have one chance to upload it to their central network. And then what happens? Asked one of the younger crew members, a pilot named Kevin. Then all hegemony ships, weapons, and control systems will shut down. Simultaneously, Alice explained, including this one, so we must be prepared for that. During the journey, Alice shared what she had learned about the hegemony. They were not a single species, but a collective of conquered races, all connected through neural implants to a central intelligence. The blue-skinned commanders were the original species who had started the empire thousands of years ago. They fear independent thought, Alice said. That's why they connect everyone to their network. It makes rebellion impossible. Until now, Nathan added. On the 3rd day, Martinez called everyone to the bridge. We're picking up transmissions from other ships. The hegemony seems to be facing problems on multiple fronts. Alice analyzed the signals. Fascinating. Our partial virus has had an unexpected effect. Some conquered worlds have begun to resist hegemony control. You mean we're not alone in this fight? Allison asked. No. The disruption weakened their neural control in some sectors. Species who have been enslaved for generations are fighting back. This news gave the crew new hope. They were no longer just 12 humans in a stolen ship. They were part of something larger. On the 5th day, they reached the star system where the Nexus orbited. The space station was enormous, a ring structure larger than Earth's moon. Hundreds of ships defending it, Martinez observed grimly. How do we get close enough? But as they watched, they realized many of the ships were fighting each other. Beams of energy crossed space as hegemony vessels fired on their own kind. They're being controlled by different factions, Alice explained. The rebellion has spread further than we realized. Nathan spotted an opening. There, between those two battle groups, we could slip through while they're distracted. Martinez nodded. It's our only chance. The Hope accelerated toward the gap, its engines straining. Enemy ships turned to intercept them but were engaged by rebel vessels. We're being hailed, Lisa announced in surprise. A face appeared on their screen. Not the blue-skinned hegemony commanders, but a species with 4 eyes and yellow skin. Unknown vessel, the alien said, in a strange accent. You fly a hegemony ship, but your patterns are different. Identify. Allison stepped forward. We are from Earth. We have come to destroy the hegemony control network. The alien was silent for a moment. Earth, the new world they attacked. We will help you reach the Nexus. Follow our lead. 4 ships moved into formation around the Hope, shielding it as they approached the massive station. Multiple weapons locking onto us, Martinez warned. The escort ships took the brunt of the defensive fire. 2 exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The others pressed on, firing continuously at the Nexus's outer defenses. They're sacrificing themselves for us, Allison whispered. For themselves, too, Alice corrected. For freedom. With a final burst of speed, the Hope reached the docking ring of the Nexus. The impact shook the ship violently as they crashed through the outer walls rather than attempting a proper docking. Alarms blared as atmosphere vented from both the ship and the station. Emergency. Force field snapped into place, containing the breach. Everyone, prepare for boarding, Martinez ordered, checking his weapon. Alice, where do we need to go? The control core is at the center of the station. I've downloaded the layout. Follow my directions. They moved through the damaged sections of the Nexus, encountering surprisingly little resistance. Most of the station's defenders had been deployed to fight the rebel ships outside. The central core was a vast chamber with a column of swirling energy at its center, similar to the communication node they had found on the scout ship, but 1,000 times larger. The neural network hub, Alice said. Connect me there. As Allison moved toward the column carrying Alice's container, a voice echoed through the chamber. So primitive, yet so persistent. A figure emerged from behind the energy column. It was larger than the other blue-skinned aliens they had seen, with cybernetic implants covering much of its body. Its 3 eyes glowed with an inner light. High Commander Ziktal, Alice identified, the leader of the hegemony. Not just leader, Ziktal replied. I am the hegemony. All are connected to me. With a gesture, Ziktal sent a wave of force that knocked the humans backward. Only Martinez remained standing, bracing himself against the attack. You cannot stop what has existed for millennia, Ziktal said. Thousands of worlds serve us. No, Allison replied, struggling to her feet. They don't serve you. You enslave them. She looked at Martinez, who understood immediately. He charged forward, drawing Ziktal's attention. The others moved in different directions, forcing the commander to divide his focus. Nathan reached a control panel and began working frantically. Lisa joined him, connecting devices they had brought from Earth. Ziktal struck Martinez with enough force to send him flying across the room. He hit a wall and did not move again. Enough games, the commander snarled, turning toward Allison, who now stood closest to the energy column. You're right, she said. No more games. She lifted Alice's container and pressed it against the column. The blue sphere inside pulsed rapidly. sending waves of energy into the hegemony network. What have you done? Zigtal stumbled, his cybernetic parts sparking. We gave you one last chance, Allison said. You chose not to take it. Throughout the Nexus, systems began to fail. The energy column flickered and dimmed. Zigtal fell to his knees, screaming as his connection to the network was severed. Across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds, the same scene played out. Hegemony control systems shut down, neural implants deactivated. Enslaved beings looked up, feeling their own thoughts clearly for the first time in generations. The complete virus spread through the hegemony network in minutes, destroying the neural controls that had maintained the empire for thousands of years. In the control chamber, Allison helped the injured Martinez to his feet. Did it work? He asked weakly. Before she could answer, new ships began appearing around the Nexus, vessels of designs they had never seen before, from worlds long conquered by the hegemony. 6 months later, Allison stood in a rebuilt United Nations chamber in New York. Representatives from 27 alien species filled the seats, with hundreds more connected virtually from their homeworlds. The Galactic Confederation is now in session, announced the chairperson. President Carter took the podium. Earth thanks you for this honor, but we must decline the leadership role you have offered. We don't seek to replace one empire with another, Shimai Shiui looked around at the gathered representatives. We want partnership, not dominance. Every world must have its own voice. Later, Allison walked through a memorial garden where trees had been planted for those lost in what was now called the Liberation War. Miller, Davis, Martinez, and millions of others who never knew how the story would end. A small green sapling marked Trell's place, the first of his kind to be planted on Earth. Nathan joined her, looking up at the evening sky where new stars were visible, gifts from their alien allies who had helped improve Earth's telescopes. Do you think they'll come back? He asked. The original hegemony species? Maybe, Allison replied, but not as conquerors. Alice says their children are already different, growing up without the neural network to control their thoughts. Above them, ships from a dozen worlds moved in peaceful orbits. Earth was no longer alone in the universe, and humanity had proven that when given only one last chance, they could change the destiny of an entire galaxy.